I was just laughing listening to all that, Piers. Donald Trump's never called anybody garbage. Donald Trump called Kamala Harris's advisors garbage just like the other week. Donald Trump said America is a trash can and the world is sending their garbage, which is migrants here. Donald Trump's called me and other people that oppose him in the media the enemy of the people. He's called people human scum. He said that Haitian migrants were eating cats and dogs. Do we need to keep doing this? Like this, like we're going to pretend to be offended on behalf of Donald Trump? I mean, and Steven Crowder, by the way, his whole career, this is why he's on Rumble, not on YouTube, because he got kicked off YouTube because all he does is insult gay people, insult trans people. Yeah.
Based.
Like, the only garbage I know is Steven Crowder and Donald Trump. So they're garbage. I don't think all of Donald Trump's supporters are garbage. I think that many of them are good people that have been misinformed by Donald Trump and Steven Crowder's lies.
Stephen, your response.
Yeah, well, look, one thing, I don't like the way that these panels sometimes some people descend into nothing but ad hominem and interrupt each other. So I promise you, I'm going to respect your time, and you will not hear me speak a single time today, not one interruption, until you hear this bell. I just ask that you give me the floor. So not going to address the ad hominem, but I've never been banned from YouTube. As a matter of fact, this will be up on YouTube. The election live stream of the century will be on YouTube as well. Every single example that was just given was not addressed to the American people at large, and not even the Democrat voting base at large. America is for Americans. Are black people not Americans? Are Hispanic Americans not Americans? The qualifier that I have always made, and Donald Trump has always made, and the reason that so many Americans support him is because there aren't those qualifiers of race that we see in identity politics. Every single example, I could go through all of them, the people around Kamala Harris, the people surrounding her, are scum and garbage.
Steven Crowder went on Piers Morgan Uncensored and debated this woke idiot Tim Miller for saying absolutely ridiculous things. In my opinion, Steven Crowder absolutely obliterated Tim Miller here live on Piers Morgan. Let's get into this clip from Piers Morgan of Steven Crowder and Tim Miller, this woke idiot, absolutely getting into a very heated debate here live on Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Garbage. The key difference here that we see, and I've gone through this quite a bit because the New York Times has a whole running article, at least between 2015 and 2021, as to all of Donald Trump's insults on Twitter before he was banned. You won't find Donald Trump insulting the American voter like you do with the left. They did refer, we can argue the phantom apostrophe, like you said. I appreciate you recognizing its absurdity. Donald Trump goes after those who are in power, the elites. He refers to the DNC. He refers to the establishment. You may not like him referring to the swamp. You may not like him referring to people inside the Beltway, but he's never gone after the American voters. He actually does respect them, and he's trying to win them over. That's what we're actually talking about. And it's the Achilles heel of the Democrat Party today. They're very elitist. That's the problem with garbage.
Was it still damaging for Donald Trump to have this guy, Tony Hinchcliffe, at Madison Square Garden? I was there, and aside from anything else, the joke fell completely flat in the room, so it didn't work even on a comedic value with him. Although I thought Jon Stewart made a good point that this guy's a roaster. It's what he does. He roasts everybody and everything. But putting that aside, you know, I saw Megyn Kelly and Bill O'Reilly both saying, look, if you're going to get to the last week of a race, you don't want to have people at your rallies insulting the whole of Puerto Rico, given how many Puerto Ricans, for example, are in the state of Pennsylvania, a crucial state. Do you agree with that?
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
I don't care. And I mean, I know we're discussing perception. Look, I think there's a huge difference, for example, between a roast comedian or an insult comedian making a joke. I think there's a big difference between that and the sitting president of the United States, between biting baby stints, referring to the American voters as garbage. You may not like one, but I don't think that we should be applying the same standard. Donald Trump has never called anyone garbage. Barack Obama referred to half of America as bitter clingers. Hillary Clinton, at least half of Trump voters as deplorables. And you know what? I've heard people refer to that joke as horrifying. I hate it when people feign offense when they're not really offended. Maybe some people are offended. I think a lot of people aren't that offended by the joke, at least not as much as they let on to be. But I've heard a lot of people refer to it as horrifying, that rally. I don't think a joke from an insult comic is horrifying. You know what I do think is horrifying? I don't know if you know this. Adolf Hitler, the Nazis, killed 6 million Jews. I know it's lost on a lot of people. I think that's horrifying. And I think to belittle the horrifying acts of the Nazi Party, the National Socialist Workers' Party, by referring to Donald Trump as a Nazi, which is largely the reason he was the subject of an assassination plot at least 2 times that we know of, I think that's horrifying. But that's just my opinion, and I'll disagree with people.
And it would be different if the left-wingers, if these people who are outraged about Tony Hinchcliffe's speech at Trump's rally, it would be different. If I actually thought they were outraged about it, if I actually thought that it hurt someone's feelings, let's be real. They all know who Tony Hinchcliffe is. They all know that the guy's a comedian. He's a roaster, like Piers Morgan said, like Steven Crowder said. They all know this. They're choosing to act like they don't know it so they can be fake outraged about it, cry about it, and try and get people to disavow Donald Trump, which it is working. Some people who were endorsing Donald Trump before are now disavowing him and saying because of that joke, for some reason, a joke that Donald Trump didn't tell, they're now against Donald Trump. I just can't understand it. I mean, I just, if the left were ever actually genuine in their outrage, then maybe I could feel a little bit bad for them, but I don't at all. I think Steven Crowder is completely correct. Who cares? Like, honestly, who cares?
People.
Well, I actually agree with you, but someone who doesn't is the host of The Bulwark, Tim Miller, who has this to say in response. Tim, welcome to Uncensored.
I was just laughing listening to all that, Piers. Donald Trump's never called anybody garbage. Donald Trump called Kamala Harris's advisors garbage just like the other week. Donald Trump said America is a trash can and the world is sending their garbage, which is migrants here. Donald Trump's called me and other people that oppose him in the media the enemy of the people. He's called people human scum. He said that Haitian migrants were eating cats and dogs. Do we need to keep doing this? Like this, like we're going to pretend to be offended on behalf of Donald Trump? I mean, and Steven Crowder, by the way, his whole career, this is why he's on Rumble, not on YouTube, because he got kicked off YouTube because all he does is insult gay people, insult trans people. Yeah.
Based.
Like, the only garbage I know is Steven Crowder and Donald Trump. So they're garbage. I don't think all of Donald Trump's supporters are garbage. I think that many of them are good people that have been misinformed by Donald Trump and Steven Crowder's lies.
Stephen, your response.
Yeah, well, look, one thing, I don't like the way that these panels sometimes some people descend into nothing but ad hominem and interrupt each other. So I promise you, I'm going to respect your time, and you will not hear me speak a single time today, not one interruption, until you hear this bell. I just ask that you give me the floor. So not going to address the ad hominem, but I've never been banned from YouTube. As a matter of fact, this will be up on YouTube. The election live stream of the century will be on YouTube as well. Every single example that was just given was not addressed to the American people at large, and not even the Democrat voting base at large. America is for Americans. Are black people not Americans? Are Hispanic Americans not Americans? The qualifier that I have always made, and Donald Trump has always made, and the reason that so many Americans support him is because there aren't those qualifiers of race that we see in identity politics. Every single example, I could go through all of them, the people around Kamala Harris, the people surrounding her, are scum and garbage. That's not going to be misinterpreted as Kamala's supporters are garbage. The voters of Donald Trump are deplorable. These people are scum. Kamala Harris is dumb, whatever he said. That's very different from the hatred, the reviling of the American voter. Your floor.
Yeah.
Also, at the same time, Steven Crowder just cooked there, by the way. This guy looks like he's about to absolutely cry. What a freeze frame on Steven Crowder's face right now. But anyway, Donald Trump saying that the world is sending their garbage here. He's not wrong. The people who normally are coming here, especially to the southern border, are people who are fleeing the you know, whether it's the cartel or the government. They did something wrong in their country, and they're fleeing here to escape the punishment that is coming for them. A lot of the people who are coming to the southern border, that is what's happening. So he's not wrong. The people, and also they're committing a crime. If they come here illegally, they are committing a crime by simply entering the country illegally. If you commit one crime, you're a lot more likely to commit another versus someone who has never committed a crime. It's the same thing in business, right? If anybody runs a business, you know, if someone buys something for you one time, they're a lot more likely to buy something from you for a second time. So like, that's why a lot of companies will have discounts for the first subscription. Like, let's say you want to sign up for a meal prepping service. They'll give you 50% off your first month because they know that you're a lot more likely, if you just buy from them once, even if they break even or lose a little bit on the front end, you're a lot more likely to renew for the second month once you get the first month. So if these people are entering the country illegally one time, they're a lot more likely to commit more crimes, especially if the first crime goes unpunished, which currently it is. So they are sending their garbage here. There's no debate to be had about that.
You know what, Tim Miller, what I would say is, people on the left, they're very, very quick to be very offended by Trump's rhetoric. This has been going on for 8 years now, that this guy talks in a disparaging way about people. It's unacceptable, it's awful, blah, 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 blah. But you think nothing as a group of constantly flashing the Nazi word around, fascist, Nazi, and now garbage. Why is it one rule for Trump? Why do you want him to clean up the way he talks, but a completely different set of rules for your own side? Why are you allowed to just go around calling people mass murderers?
I'm not. Like I said, the only people I called garbage were Donald Trump and Steven Crowder because they've acted like garbage by disparaging people their entire careers. Like, that was the whole premise of both of these two guys' careers. Donald Trump's just been a little bit more successful at it. So Joe Biden's statement, I think, was like totally nonsensical marble mouth. And I was maybe one of the most vocal people saying Joe Biden shouldn't run for president again. Joe Biden isn't running for president. Kamala Harris is running for president. And she gave a speech on the Ellipse where she talked about how MAGA voters would have and MAGA politicians would have a seat at the table in her administration. So you guys are trying to make something out of nothing, and you're trying to do this fake outrage where it's like in soccer, Piers, where you guys are flopping. You're flopping on the ground, hoping the refs call a foul on Joe Biden, when Donald Trump's whole career has been insults and lies and disparaging people, and also his actual actions have been hurtful. You know, the sexual assault that he committed on women, the fact that he banned people from coming to this country based on their religion, the separating of family. We could just go on and on about Donald Trump's behavior, the cops that got injured at the Capitol because of the riot that he started. So Donald Trump, it's not just his words, it's his actions that have been harmful. And you guys can get mad about what the soon-to-be former president, Joe Biden, like incomprehensibly said, but he's not running against Joe Biden. And it seems like a desperate ploy to like put on a fancy costume and dress up like an Oompa Loompa.
All right, Stephen, I mean, last time I checked, Joe Biden remains the current president of the United States. He is the leader of the free world. And for him to pop up as Kamala Harris is delivering her supposed great final mission statement to the electorate on a Skype call, calling half of America garbage, struck me as just, never mind anything else, incredible.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
Bad timing, to the point where you think, was that deliberate? Is he trying to sabotage her?
Thank you. But again, I'm really going to avoid ad hominem, which is really tough because it seems to be coming from the other side of this panel here.
Well, I will note for the record that you have not gone ad hominem. And Tim, to be fair, all you've done is abuse Steve. All you've done is abuse Stephen on a personal level. I actually would like to rise above that.
His whole career is all he's done is attack gay and trans people. Now he's like, he's getting offended, being called out for it. Just Google his history of his comments about gays, trans people, women. Like he is Mr. Ad hominem. So don't like try to be like, oh, I'm Mr. Nice Guy now. Come on, give me a break. Let's be honest.
Stephen?
Okay, thank you for giving me the floor. As far as it being ill-advised, I would say so with Joe Biden. The problem is that Kamala Harris was given so many opportunities to distance herself from Joe Biden. The Biden-Harris administration, she chose not to. She said there's not a thing that she would do differently, and she was one of his most important advisors in all of the decisions that had an impact. Vice presidents aren't always given such an easily identifiable pet project. She was. And I know the talking point is she wasn't the border czar, even though Biden said that. The point is she was in charge of, she was being tasked with discovering the root cause of the immigration issue. Well, we had 3 million under Donald Trump's tenure, and now we have at least 15 to 20 million on the low end. That is a huge impact that affects Americans. If we want to talk about Donald Trump's actions hurting Americans, look, I guess we're back to 2016. The issue is no Americans have lived actions that have harmed them more than the latest administration. They've lived it. They lived Donald Trump for 4 years. They've lived Biden-Harris for 4 years. It doesn't work. It falls on deaf ears. It's like Paul Revere always saying, the exact same economy is coming. The exact same economy is coming. If you want to talk about actions that have hurt, I would argue that the actions on the border, the actions on American energy, the policies, which I would like to discuss, have hurt Americans. It's why they're rejecting Kamala Harris. It's why they trust Donald Trump more on issues like the economy and immigration. And by the way, I'm one of them. But the point remains, not one example has been presented. And by the way, I'm not offended by any of this. You haven't heard me feign outrage. I've just tried to describe the situation, why Americans don't like it. Not one example at all of Donald Trump referring to the American people at large as garbage or insulting them as the Democrat Party does every single election cycle. Your floor.
He doesn't. I mean, he genuinely doesn't. I think Donald Trump, especially this time around, has really made an effort to be more inclusive. And I think maybe a little bit too much. I think he's trying to be a little bit too nice at times. But I already know what this guy's going to say in response. He's going to say, oh, Donald Trump attacked trans people, black people, women, all the same stuff. And I would just love for one of these people to give an example one of these times, because I feel like they just read headlines that were made up and they just ran with it. And I've never seen one actually give an example of a clip, of a quote or anything. But it's true. Donald Trump has made a clear effort, especially this time around, this election cycle, to be more inclusive, to not attack any certain group of people, especially a large one like Joe Biden did. To be fair, if you're someone like Joe Biden, your brain is hardly functioning anymore. As sad as that sounds, it's the truth. So whenever you're just hear Donald Trump bad, Donald Trump bad, Donald Trump Nazi, Donald Trump supporters bad. I mean, whenever you're asked a question about Donald Trump, you're probably going to say his supporters are garbage whenever your brain barely works. I mean, he basically has the brain capacity of a 7-year-old at this point. So if a 7-year-old is told these same things, I'm sure he would respond the exact same way. So you can't really blame him very much for that, but it does kind of represent exactly how they think of us. You know, that is how they think of us, no doubt about it. Honestly, I think about them in the same way. I think they are garbage, and I think we'd be better off if we were just more honest about it. We both hate each other. We both think each other are garbage. Just be honest about it. I appreciate it. I wish more people would be honest about it. Anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think about Steven Crowder going on Piers Morgan here and absolutely destroying Tim Miller. I think this is one of Steven Crowder's best appearances and best debates ever. I genuinely think Steven Crowder did a great job of absolutely cooking this guy, but I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts down in the comments about this Steven Crowder and Tim Miller heated debate here on Piers Morgan Uncensored.